At my church, we're in a series where we're going verse by verse through the book of Second Corinthians and talking about the things that Paul is, discussing with that church. A cool point that my pastor made about what Paul was talking about in the verses that I heard today is that you should not think less of yourself, but instead think of yourself less. And I think that's a really cool, like alliteration or almost word picture for something to walk in and actually apply. So you're not supposed to think less of yourself. You're not supposed to think, oh, I'm less than, or put yourself down, or think that you're bad for any reason. But you simply just think of yourself less. This, funny enough, is coming out of a situation where the people in Corinth were divided in the church, and they were saying, oh, well, I follow Paul, and well, I follow Apollos, and they were dividing themselves in the church rather than being unified under the banner of Christ. And I mean, we see this all over the place today when people pray to different people that aren't God, or follow different people and say, oh, I like that preacher more, and these kinds of things, right? So the argument Paul was making is he's saying, hey, me and Apollos and these people, we are all nothing, right? God is everything. And so that was his point. He was saying we are servants. That's who we are. We count ourselves as nothing. And the only thing that we've done is plant and water, but God is the one that brings the growth. And then he even goes so far as to say, right after saying that exact thing, that, maybe Paul plants and Apollos waters, but God is the one that brings the growth, that actually has that salvation for you. Right after that, his very next point is that God is the one that assigns those tasks, that appoints those things for us to do. And so not only is he just watering or planting, but it is actually God that gave him the assignment, I think it was assignment, of planting or watering in their lives and leading them toward Christ. And those words were coming from God, because Paul himself counts himself as nothing. He says, I am the worst of you, but it is all by God, and that's the only person we should look toward. And so in the same way, if you are comparing yourself and looking at other people, or thinking about how you're better than this person or you're worse than this person, then you're not thinking less of yourself. You're being very selfish and just, you're not thinking of yourself less. You're, I guess, sometimes thinking less of yourself or thinking more of yourself, but you should think about yourself less rather than focusing on myself and worrying about what people think and worrying about, if I'm good enough for this capacity. More so focus on God and focus on the assignment that you have been given. No one is capable of loving people well without God. You are not in a position to plant or water into people's lives because of anything you've done, because of any qualification that you have. And it's very easy in seeing the cool things God does through you, and the love flowing through you, to think that it has something to do with you, and this aspect of me that is a God-given strength that I don't own. You start to think like, oh, well, this is a thing about me that is good, and it's because of that aspect of me that somehow it makes it to where, oh, well, that's why God can use me, that's why I'm valuable. But that's not true. You're sinful, and you're not, you're only valuable because of your connection to God, right? And so it is a very, very true saying that God does not call the equipped, but he equips the called.